Hello and welcome to another episode of Insider Focus on what has been an absolutely bonkers day in the Premier League and the transfer window. I was actually trying to decide who on earth to speak about with the Chelsea exodus, Arsenal doing big business, but I decided to focus on Newcastle United today simply because there's a lot of unknowns, I think, with Newcastle at this point in time, and I'm going to clarify and share what I understand to be the situation with Newcastle and some certain deals. So I'll focus on some certain players here that have been connected to the club and tell you what I know and what is actually happening. Before we do that though, please make sure you hit like and subscribe, really helps us out. Share this video with any Newcastle mates as well if you feel you would like to do that too. And comment below on what you think on Newcastle's transfer window in the comments. Really good to read those as well and get your perspective on things, Newcastle United fans or any other fans for that matter. So let's move on and talk about Newcastle. Obviously, I reported in January, I'll start in January actually. In January, I consistently reported what I was told. And that was that the window was being catered for summer, i.e. summer was going to be much bigger than the January window. The money spent on Anthony Gordon and then Maddison Ashby on top of that as well, and those that came in January was actually more than Newcastle planned to spend in the first place. They didn't want to spend that much money at all in January. They felt the squad that they had there at the time was good enough for what they considered to be a top 8, top 6 finish. But of course, they ended up in a Champions League chase, and that pushed them on to bring in some more numbers and pay that money for Anthony Gordon, of course. So that's brought them to summer, which we knew was going to be bigger. And I'd like to start with James Maddison, simply because he's been a guy that's been connected to Newcastle United for a long time. Constantly talks of a key target. And as we've come into the summer months, there's been more and more conversations that Newcastle will in fact not go for him, and Tottenham are going to go for him, and Tottenham are leading the race, but now Newcastle are leading the race, and And I'm not here to besmirch any other journalists reporting. I'll only report what I've consistently been told, and I'll consistently report what I've consistently been told. And that is that James Maddison is a key target for Newcastle United. He's still very impressed and interested in that project. Eddie Howe likes him a lot and really wants to bring him in. And we expect a bid for that to come soon. Very soon. Newcastle have already had discussions with Maddison's agents at CAA base. That he's spoken to them. They've already established what kind of deal could be done. They've established what kind of role he would play at Newcastle as well. However, obviously this is a very good player who is available for a very good fee. So the fact that there's other clubs circling isn't a surprise. And we should expect that, of course. Now, Chelsea have had a look at Maddison. They have had a look at him and put him on the list of a potential, but there's so much going on with outgoings with Chelsea that will knock on effect to incomings. What I mean by that is that once all these outgoings are done, you'll start to see them move and bring in these players like Caicedo, etc. That is what will happen there. So we'll wait and see if Chelsea join the race more actively for James Maddison. But my understanding there is there's been an approach and they would understand the conditions if they were to do that as well. Tottenham are long-term admirers of James Maddison. That is a position of the pitch they really want to strengthen for new manager Ange Postecoglou as well, in the middle of the park, in the 10 area, and then the 2 behind. So Conor Gallagher, another one, for example, that they've looked at in there, and also the likes of Rio Hatate at Celtic is always a possibility to come across as well. So that is an area of the pitch Spurs are looking at. But as far as things are concerned, from what I can report, and listen, if Spurs sign him in 6 weeks' time, people will tell me I was wrong. But as of right now, at 12 minutes past 4 on the 21st of June, my understanding remains that Newcastle are very keen on James Maddison. He is a key target, and they will move for him in the coming weeks. I'll talk about the left-back position. I'll put it to bed fast because I know you're sick of me talking about it. About Kieran Tierney, for example, who has been a player that Newcastle have admired for a long time and would like to bring in this window. So there's a couple of things just to clear off first. First of all, Kieran Tierney's been on international duty with Scotland, as have a number of players, which obviously can halt things if you want to do things quite fast at this point in time. So there's been that. There have been conversations with Kieran Tierney and Arsenal, of course there have, to establish where he's going to be next season. But my understanding is that a move closer home and a move to Newcastle is of interest to Kieran Tierney. It is something that he's very interested in doing as well. And that playtime at Arsenal may not be quite as guaranteed as perhaps it would be maybe going to a Newcastle who need a left-back. Newcastle fans, you know that. Dan Burns has been fantastic for you, and he will come back in as the centre-back, which is he is a centre-back who's played left-back as good as he has been. So Kieran Tierney is still a key target, and again, I spoke about this on other videos. The end of this month, which we're now coming to, and the first weeks of July are going to see when this window is going to go bang. That is when everything is going to happen for a number of reasons, whether that be shifting into the new financial fair play year as well, a big part of it, and also the fact that there's been internationals. The window as well itself is different due to the fact we had the World Cup, and everything is squeezed into this one period, which means that those weeks are going to be key in this transfer window for every team, not just Newcastle United. Another one is Borna Sosa, who I know has been looked at as well at Stuttgart, the Croatia left-back. Very talented left-back, liked by a number of clubs, and is also on the radar of Newcastle United. He's young, he's available, he's got a very good record with injuries. It's not been too bad as well, which perhaps goes against Kieran Tierney, who in my opinion at the moment is closer than Sosa to joining Newcastle United, in my understanding. But Sosa is another one who the club have looked at. So we know this is an area they're going to strengthen, and it's an area they're going to move on. Sosa, I believe, will move from Stuttgart in this window. A number of Premier League clubs, a number of clubs in Spain have looked at him, and Germany too. So he's got a lot of interest in him at this point in time. He could move to a fellow Bundesliga club like a Bayer Leverkusen, for example. He could move to Spain, or he could find himself in the Premier League, perhaps at Newcastle United, if the Tierney deal doesn't happen or they move to another target. So that's my understanding for the left-back position. But I know you're looking at me saying, Fraser, talk about Tonali, talk about Barella, talk about Italy. And I've been doing a lot of work on this in the last kind of couple of days. You've seen a lot of reports about this going out, which is understandable. It's very exciting. Barella is a Newcastle target, is on the list of potential targets, I should say, at this point in time. And getting a deal over the line with Inter Milan on that will be difficult. I've stated this before. The £50 million fee was, in my opinion, low for what it would take to get him out. And Inter Milan would look for more around, in pounds, £65 million to 70 to sell him. He is a key player for them. He's a player they want to continue to build around. Now, there were then some reports that Barella would not be interested in a move to the Premier League, and again, my understanding on that is that's not the case. He would in fact be very interested to have a discussion and see what was on offer in the Premier League and come to England as well, and Newcastle had a chance there. So people saying it might take some convincing to get people to join Newcastle. Don't forget they've got the Champions League. Don't forget the backing that's at the club, the wages that they can offer as well. And that is what's happening with Tonali. Newcastle are in talks with Tonali, have talked to his intermediaries, his agents and the people around him. Newcastle have got a consultation of people out there in Italy to try and look at these deals and get them across the line. And conversations have been happening with AC Milan around a £60 million deal. And that, my understanding, has been reasonably positive. It would be easier to remove Tonali from AC Milan at this point than Barella from Inter. That is the kind of feeling, the general feeling and mood around these deals. And that's not surprising. Again, reports came out that Tonali would have zero interest in a move to England and wants to stay at AC Milan and has no plans to leave. And again, I'm not here to shout down any other journalist. Everyone's got their own information. My information is, again, that would be not true, and that he would be very, very keen to talk to Newcastle United, very, very keen to go to the Premier League. Newcastle United's agents have been in talks with Newcastle to see what kind of deal could get across the line, and that has also been positive. This is going to be more about structure of a deal and getting it across the line than the amount with Tonali. And what I mean by that is they're quite close. Newcastle are not far away from AC Milan's valuation, by my understanding, of their the Italian defensive midfielder, who is young and extremely talented and would be an unbelievable signing. But again, Chelsea have come knocking here because they have also spoken to the agency and the team around Tonali about the conditions of a deal. So Chelsea understand what would need to be done as well to bring him in. Of course, they're working on Moises Caicedo first. So Newcastle are in the market here to spend nearly £200 million, to spend a lot of money in this summer and to push on with these deals. So it's a big window for you Newcastle fans. It's an exciting window for you. Talks of Callum Wilson leaving the club, I understand, are premature as well. The club really like him, and you've got him and Alexander Isak up front. You could see a younger striker come in, perhaps, to help bolster the numbers if there's an injury to Wilson, who sometimes is susceptible to them. But with Isaac in there at the goal scoring rate he's had, and we expect him to have a phenomenal season next year, with Callum Wilson in there as well, perhaps a younger one up front as well is something the club could look at. And then in the wide areas is another area that the club could strengthen. Tottenham keen on Harvey Barnes, have had early talks with Leicester, but I understand Newcastle do like Harvey Barnes as well, and that is one to watch again over the next couple of weeks because these dates are key, and Newcastle obviously working on the likes of Tonali, etc. at this point in time. So, a lot happening at Newcastle United. Very, very exciting. Watch the next few weeks ahead. I'd love to sit here and report. People kind of, you know, shout at us journalists, not just me, and say, tell us that it's done, and I'd love to do that. And do you know what? People might report it before me. People probably will get the exclusive before me, your Romanos and Ornsteins, who the guys that I admire. But it's important that I tell you what I know, as factually as I can, rather than trying to be first. So that's everything I've got for you on Newcastle United. I'd love to sit here and say that deals are done. Tonali all looks very positive from what I'm hearing, and there is the opportunity to do a deal there. Would be an incredible signing for Newcastle United and would really show the times. It would really show the direction that Newcastle are heading in at this point in time. Because if you're a Newcastle fan, you must be buzzing, because it's very, very exciting. A long way away from fighting relegation with Steve Bruce. You're now going into the Champions League with Eddie Howe. It's a different kettle of fish altogether that brings a different plethora of player. Newcastle are shopping in a different aisle altogether from the one that they used to. Defensive options also being looked at by the club. But I'll be here as much as I can. I'll be on my Twitter, you can find me there. All the information on Football Insider, make sure you follow. All the links in the description below, as Newcastle United continue to push in this window to build for what is a Champions League season, and perhaps, who knows, a title charge maybe. That's the next step for them, right? We'll wait and see on that front. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. It's been some day. I'm away to get a coffee. Cheerio.